Welcome everyone to Liberty Contracts. This week we are talking about how the government makes money and who pays for municipal developments. John and Tarek will help us discover this dimension of our governmental process. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a little disclaimer. The information contained herein is for educational purposes only. The author is not a lawyer, has no affiliation to any law societies, government, or regulating bodies, or NGO, or legal authority. All information contained herein should be carefully researched by the reader so that the reader may understand how a rule, act, statute, regulation, law, or otherwise applies to their situation. All legal situations are different. Be responsible, act accordingly. That being said, let's discover right away, how does a government make money?
Well, thank you for that question, Luke. Hey, everybody. Sorry, my voice is a little bit out of sorts today. I do have allergies, and so they're causing a lot of stuffy nose. So I apologize if I sound like Daffy the Duck. Well, uh, to answer that question, really, we have to do it as simply as possible, and that is that the government is simply printing these IOUs. They're not really making any money. That would require that they actually commission a mining operation and actually go and mine gold and silver. But what they're doing is, excuse me. Whoa. What they're doing is that they're simply printing these IOUs and asking people to have faith in these IOUs. These IOUs are used in such a way, or done in such a way, however, nowadays the government puts out an order to their central bank, which is a non-federally regulated entity, for a loan that is with capital letters, all capital letters, LOAN, just so that I can make it a shout capital letters, to print a specific quantity of their currency, and the rest is pushed out in various regulated and non-regulated assets as digital currency.
We know they're printing money for sure. John, do you want to add to how the government is making money right now?
Governments don't make money. Governments only make de facto rules. Definitely don't confuse making money with printing money or making a profit. Governments print money. Governments show a profit, but they don't make money. Profits defined as the advance in price of goods sold beyond the cost of purchase. But as you remember from other videos, that's not money. That's just something, that's just an increase in the numbers ledgered on your accounting sheet. The governments don't produce any goods or even improve existing goods. So technically they don't make a profit, and all of the profit that they show is just an increase of the wealth that they ultimately give to the currency or something like that. But they're just ledgering it. Beyond that, my answer is going to get us kicked off of YouTube.
Well, we're okay with that because obviously YouTube works for the government. So, hey, let's expose them. The thing is that my belief was always that they didn't only print money. I mean, they're collecting all of our taxes. Where's all that money going? I mean, that's been my question. So I'm just going to follow up a question here. So if the government, if they are printing money, how are they providing services to people?
Through the access through the public trust and the SKV trust, in short. But when it comes to printing money, they're not actually printing millions or billions of dollars. and then loading it onto trucks or trading hands and it being hauled to individual banks. Essentially, what we have right now is basically a digital currency already, because all they're doing is saying, hey, increase your wealth under contract for this amount of dollars. You know, just like with something like healthcare. You get a healthcare number, and that healthcare number, every time you go to the doctor, every time you give him that healthcare number, it gets monetized into an instrument that the doctor in turn gets paid for from the government. So the banks ultimately are doing the exact same thing, just on a slightly different, instead of saying hospital form on top, it says financial form on top.
That raises so many questions. Tarek, can you clarify some things on that?
Yeah, absolutely. John's answer is pitch perfect. Though what I will add is that they're not providing any services as much as they're providing administrations and regulations, which John answered as the Cystic EV Trust, which is already there. Although the correct position for any government is to discover universal laws and then utilize them to help uplift the very people that created the government. Today's governments are controlled by self-serving interests and lobbyists who are steamrolling everyone else without as many as IOUs as they have. So really, they're not providing any services. They use the special interest groups to create this illusion or farce that Walmart is providing services and all these different, which they are. I mean, I'm not saying that they aren't, but all these other corporations are providing better services than some of the government corporations, which is simply horrendous, first of all. But it's just something that we have to take another look at in terms of how the government is actually providing these services, which they're not.
I mean, the fact that, and the ideology that the government is using services to create financial instruments is, wow. It's really on the other level here. So, I mean, if the governments are simply printing money, why are we seeing broken roads, crumbling infrastructures, and exceptional levels of unemployment and poverty? I mean, isn't that what happened to Venezuela and Cuba? I mean,
not to mention Rome, Greece, Babylon, Syria, Atlantis.
So why are they repeating the same thing?
Do you want to take that, Tarek?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. It's really due to the fact that the governments cannot spend their money on infrastructure. That printed money was in fact done because of several lobbyists and special interest groups that created the promissory notes for the government to do that act.
John, do you have anything to add to that? Why is
Yeah,
it there? Why are we seeing all of this, crumbling of society?
Yeah, because the taxes that you're paying to your favorite taxman, all they're doing is paying off the interest on the national debt. They're not actually going towards infrastructure or anything like that. And even companies like CRA have internal rules that anything that you collect, you, the taxman, collects from we, the unsuspecting people, it goes to line their pockets first. There's a specific percentage of the money that they collect that they're allowed to have a party on or throw a party or spread it around the office. And then whatever is left goes to CRA to help pay off national debt. But if you follow the paperwork with CRA, it goes right back to the DTCC, the Bank of Canada, and the IMF. And they're basically just giving checks back and forth between the CRA and the IMF for paying off the interest on the national debt. And every time there's a little bit more interest, then the IMF lends CRA or Bank of Canada a little bit more money.
A little bit more money now that our debt is like at $2 trillion.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a fun game for them, but what for us, the taxpayers? So aren't municipalities getting money from the government for development, the development projects directly?
No, they're not getting it directly, like we discussed one question before that. Um, they're not actually getting any money from the government directly itself. They have, like we explored a few answers before. They have these special people in the municipal government who are actually writing these bonds, or whatever they are, promissory notes, whatever they need to do. It's a ledger that they have to put out and say, okay, well, if we give out this contract to X number of contractors, that's how really that money is created. Much like a credit card, when you swipe the card, the money is created instantly. That's how they're doing it. At least at the municipal level, and even then they cannot stimulate it too much, because if they did that, according to them, it will mess up the money supply. So they just chalk it up to, okay, well, we'll have a timeline of when this road is actually supposed to break apart, or this building is supposed to show cracks in its foundation, and then we'll go and fix that. But really, due date actually comes and passes by, and nothing actually is done or shown for it, mainly because, once again, these people are not ready, or some churn happens, some difficulty happens during that period, that the contractor is not able to work, or the municipal government is not able to work itself. Elections happen, and so the wheel goes forth, breaking everything in its path.
Man, I so agree. John, do you have anything to add to that?
Something I wrote here the other day. The backsplash from the government/bank financial journal has a tendency to find the feet where the municipal governments and NGOs are happily kissing for the sake of some love from Big Daddy.
Right on, right on.
Find more of those, because really, we're not even talking only about government here. We're talking about like the Vatican. They collect so much tithes, money, taxes, everything.
Yep. And if you're giving money to CRA, ultimately it goes either to the IMF or the Vatican.
Yeah, there's none of it giving to, actually taking care of people that need it. And so, so why is the government spending out of control on propaganda and other cosmetic appearances, but no money flowing towards those that really need it? Example, they send $40 billion to Ukraine when 10% of people are homeless right now.
But they can write off $40 billion as a tax write-off.
That's an excellent question.
And I think when it comes to something like, say, building an interchange or an intersection versus spending money on AHS propaganda to tell me while I'm driving down the road that I need to stay 6 feet apart, which is not nearly enough if you're driving down the road. But the spending on the propaganda and the media attention, and different like a election campaign or something like that, is easy to write off. It's incredibly easy to write off. You can write off a lot of money. You can throw a bunch of money at it. You can hide money all over the place in the whole thing. You can launder it as much as you want. But if you spend that money on a bridge instead, the bridge has upkeep. Now you have to pay so that somebody can go drive the snowplow across the bridge and clear the snow off of it in the wintertime, and you have to repave the road all the time. And you have all these other different expenses relating to said road. So it's much easier just to push that money off into propaganda, write it off, claim a tax refund. So we've gone through our budget for the year. And then next year, you'll either get the same budget or a bigger budget.
They really could have such a great infrastructure with the amount of taxes that we pay. 60% of our wages go to taxes. We're not talking about the income tax. We're talking about that plus the GST, plus insurance, plus the. So 60% of our wages go into making sure that everybody's taken care of, yet none of us are. Some people are, blessed, and have great businesses. Others are suffering really badly nowadays. So, I mean, do you have anything to add to that, Tarek? I mean, you said it was a great question. So,
Uh, well, yeah, part of it has to do with a lot of money laundering and making sure that all the right interests uh, interest groups and the lobbyists are actually happy. That's what this is really about. When a whole bunch of these IOUs are printed. Now the IOUs themselves. I mean, I have a question for the audience, and also, Luke and John, you also please feel free to answer it. If I made you a promise, let's say that I made Luke and John a promise, both of them, that I will fix their one of their flickering bulbs because I'm an electrician or something like that, right? And then I said that, well, now I have to go and present a tax on that promise to the government. So I'm going to tax you. I'm going to put a tax on top of that. So you're going to have to pay me some extra 5%, 15%, 12%, 13%, maybe as high as 20% in some areas. Do you guys think that me taxing a promise is mental illness?
I think it's a trick question, because if you're charging a tax on anything, that's a mental illness. It doesn't matter whether it's on a promise or something else.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't realize, or I don't understand why governments wouldn't have more money flowing downwards to infrastructure. But there's so much greed and corruption at this point in most of the government systems around the world that there's really no hope for it. We have to get people back out on the street who want to do the thing that needs to be done. You know, whether it's plant the garden, cut the grass, pave the road, fix the school, whatever it might be.
I mean, for all the audience out there, you guys will agree with me when we're driving across the cities, wherever you're at, everywhere I've been, you see people put cones up and construction zones up, and I mean, it's there forever. Forever. Isn't like science quick now? It's like, this is what you do, then this is what you do, then this is what you do. Same with building a house. It's not that complicated. We've scientifically made it better easily to do one thing after another. It's just really organization. So am I getting this straight? We talked previously about this too, that the money that is being printed is all IOUs. So then we are being taxed on a promise to pay or just promises. Tarek, can you elaborate?
Yeah, I think this question leads directly into the question that I asked the audience and you yourself. Is that, this is the IOU. It literally stands for I owe you this amount of gold or silver written on this piece of paper. That's called a currency, or a dollar, or a rupee, or a ruble, or yen, whatever it is. And yes, it's literally a promise to pay. If people still don't understand the definition of money, and you cannot hold yourself accountable by now to actually go and ask the government, what the hell are they doing taxing us? I mean, we really don't have any hope whatsoever of ever correcting the system, and may as well just start over. But that's not really the point here. The point here is that we need to understand that once this common knowledge, this is literally common knowledge, once it's kind of like showing the illusion or the magic trick of the magician, and uplifting the veil of that trick, how it's performed, and so in front of the people. And so what it does is that you cannot see that same thing as it was before, because every time now I look at a currency, I'm always reading the little notes. The other day I saw a Mexican peso, and it was a 20 peso note, and I looked at it and I was like, it doesn't have any peso sign on it. It does say peso here, just like the Bank of Canada note, but it doesn't say it doesn't have a peso sign. Neither did it have the government of Mexico written on it. It had Banco de Mexico or Banco de Mexico, however you want to pronounce that. And so, every time I go and look at a currency, that's how I'm seeing it. And it looks, look at it, it's like, wow, okay. So the magician's trick has been revealed, and I can no longer go back and and at any time look at any currency note, be it a dollar, yen, whatever you name it, and see it the same way. And this is the point of this whole thing, is that the audience also needs to understand, in addition to the people who are learning this with us, is that IOUs, printing them, taxing promises is utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. This system should not have gone on as long as it had if people had just the audacity to read one little sentence that says "I owe you," and then correlated that sentence to what it says on the currency or the banknote that says the holder will present it to the bank, and then the bank will owe it to the holder. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but that's literally what the banknotes used to say. The holder will be paid by the bank for whatever that value is. And so, once again, don't look at these currency notes as money. They're not. They're simply promises. And if you're gonna get taxed with promises, you think you're getting services? I mean, you deserve what's coming to you. You deserve to get vaccinated by the government or the big pharma, whoever it is. You deserve to bend over and ask daddy for the stick, the shaft, every single day. That's what you deserve to do.
Well, that's a great finish, John. I'm sure you have something to add to that.
I don't know if there's much to add to that. He hit the nail pretty much right
That
on
was
the
a
head
great.
there.
Yeah, that finish. I mean, how do you continue off that?
Stop paying the taxes. Stop taking the benefits. Straight up.
What
If
benefit?
you're tired of how the hospital, if you're tired of how the hospital
What
system is
benefit are you
working,
talking about, John? I haven't received any benefit. What
yes, you have.
my child tax benefit is that a benefit?
Who pays for your Alberta healthcare?
Well, I don't use the Alberta healthcare, but I mean,
Well, I can't say that
for
I do
those
either.
who are sickly, okay, let's say I use the Alberta healthcare. Who pays for that? No, I would probably say the government.
Yeah, but where does it come from? You authorize the government, just like with the birth certificate, you authorize the government access to the SKV trust every single time you use your Alberta healthcare number or your public healthcare number, whatever it might, wherever you might be. So that benefit gets turned into dollars in their pocket that they get to ledger. If you give up your hard-earned dollars to pay your income tax, those dollars do basically the same thing. It goes to line their pockets, just like the GST, just like everything. And basically, we're at a point where you have to give up the benefits and vote with your dollars, because voting with your feet and voting with your vote don't cut it anymore.
Well, that's definitely a lot of information that people are going to, enjoy hearing today, because really that's how crazy it's been. So how long can the government keep going like this? Or is it really the government that's doing this to us?
Yes. At this point, I think it's a matter of days or maybe even hours. And no, I'm not joking. I'm really not joking, because everybody is incredibly compliant and became compliant after the last 3 years of government harassment. And they're lulled into the false sense of security and a false sense of safety incredibly easy with their phones in front of their faces. And the government spending just is totally out of control, totally not on the books. The books will balance themselves. And, what option is there? Mr. No Name broke the law, told the RCMP that he wasn't going to fund them if they investigated him, and had a little chat, which I'm pretty sure involved some cash, with the ethics commissioner. And that's where we're at. We have no rule of law. So how long can the government survive in a situation like that?
So you're saying Canada's in pretty big trouble right now?
Yeah, but it's not just Canada; it's the whole world.
The whole world.
Yep, because the whole world runs on this double entry bookkeeping banking system and the Keynesian economics, and it's not sustainable. It's just a matter of time before the currencies come down because there's literally nothing backing them. Because, I mean, how good have the government promises been in the last 3 years? And we're not just talking about the last 3 years. We're talking about all the way back to when we went off the gold standard in 72, when they basically said that everything was money or everything had value in 33, and the creation of the Federal Reserve Board in what, 1913?
Yeah, 1930. Yeah.
I was gonna say, Tarek, you must have something to say about this little conversation we've been going on.
Well, not a whole lot to add because really it's kind of like you guys are reading my mind here. But if it was up to me, if I had to say how long can the government keep this going, as long as the magician's trick is in place, as long as people continue to believe that the illusion is real, they could keep it going. Is the government doing this to us? The answer is surprisingly no. It's
No,
not the
it's not.
government. It's not the
No,
government.
we're
It's
doing it to ourselves.
Well, that's part of it, but it's really just the special interest groups, like the Vatican, like the Khazarian Mafia, like the what do you call it? There's a very special group that I forgot the name of. I can't remember the name, but they had a really cool Saxonite name. They had to do with Knights of Templars. There we go. Knights of Templars who morphed into this gigantic kind of thing. And I'm not getting into this conspiracy theory or anything like that. I'm just telling you what groups are out there. So, and there's another group in Saudi Arabia which purports to have this little black cube, black rock. They literally have a black rock at the side of this black cube, and saying that all these Muslims are not supposed to pray towards this thing, although that's objectively and even subjectively not true. Muslims are all of them are atheists by nature, by definition. However, what has been done is that all of us in every single religion, every single cult or whatever have had the wool pull over their eyes, and so it's really not the government. It's really these special interest groups, religious groups, cults, whoever they are, whatever you want to call them, like Scientology. Like the Shinto group is a little bit more milder version of that, but the Chinese Communist Party, by the way, is a cult. It's a personality cult, even if it is not like a traditional cult where you dance around an idol or something. And so these people are the ones who are keeping it going. It's really not the government. You have to understand that.
There's a lot going on in the world for sure. I mean, you did say quite a great few points there, and I appreciate those. And I'm sure the audience will have many questions about that. So how can the municipal governments, I mean, let's bring it down. I mean, we were talking about China. I mean, Russia's in the same thing. They're all on their own. Let's get back to where we can fix the problem. This, I believe, can be the solutions, is if the municipal government can actually create projects worth investing to. What do you think?
Well, to that question, my answer is going to be simple. It's really that you create a group, a corporation, or a company that puts forth a proposal for a betterment of a society. So let's say that the Southeast project, although the homes are pretty excellent over there, you could always make the whole city, the city of Calgary. I mean, holy moly, it's spread over 5,000 square kilometers. That is massive, and for a population of 1 million, I mean that's massive. You look at New York, they're not even a quarter of that, and they have a population of 20 million. So I know people have this argument, but you have slums and this and that. No, What you have to do is you have to create the infrastructure. Once you have put forward that proposal to actually buy a community or whatever you want to do, then you actually create that infrastructure to show people what the model is. And once you've modeled it and you've successfully applied it, then you go and approach other people who are also in the city, and you say, guys, we know that going through this whole thing, going to the city and actually proposing this project is an impossible task. You can't do that because they'll run you out of town. They'll say no, we don't want to do your project. We don't want to hire you. Oh, that's cool. But then you have investors and people who are actually interested in new and upcoming and interesting technologies that want to do this project, and you team up with them and you create this model for the city to follow. And you don't have to do it within the city. You can do it outside of the city, but you create something that people can actually look at and say, I want that. I want that model to be implemented here.
I mean, it's true. Even now, I mean, the UCP government has been wanting to attract investors for projects so that people can invest in Alberta. Now, I mean, if you were an investor, and I'll ask you this, John, if you were an investor, would you rather deal with somebody that wants to shut down everything, or would you rather invest in somebody that wants to, continue to do business and be open to creating projects and wealth and prosperity throughout a province or even a municipality?
I think probably your best bet is the guy who wants to open everything up, who wants to create opportunity and create jobs and fix infrastructure and maintain infrastructure. The problem is that the last guy we had here in Alberta said he was going to do that. And a month after he proposed his bill to legislature of the Cutting the Red Tape Act, all of a sudden we have infinitely more rules than we had previously, and he's not even in charge anymore. Now it's some unelected official.
AHS.
Yeah, top doctor. So I think really when it comes down to it, if people have broken infrastructure, or something needs to be fixed so the buildings don't get condemned, or streets need upkeep, whatever it might be, I think really the best way to do it is to start small. And like Tarek said, form a community association, or form an organization, or even a committee if you have to call it that, but so that you can have community outreach and people can come to you with either donations or ideas. And you can take the whole project to the government to say, hey, look, we need the road in our community repaved. This is the funds that we as a community have gotten together. These are the funds that other businesses have donated for this project. And we want you to, fund the rest because that's your job. And then, find a contractor and make it happen, sort of thing, right? Technically you can do that all yourself. It's just that you have to go through government approval before you take your jackhammer and start digging up the road.
It really is the solution, I think, right? If we took it into our own hands and we went to a government and said, look, we've raised, $500,000 to get this community here, this municipality fixed up. We've got all these donations in, we're ready to go. What do you say?
Yeah, I think so. But we're left with a situation where if you have a community project like that, you're supposed to take it to your, member of parliament or MLA or, governor, whoever that person is who's supposedly speaking for the people. But do they really speak for the people, and do they even care?
They don't. And that's been what's the difference between the last 2 years and before the last 2 years. The last 2 years has been when they decided to walk off the grid and not communicate with us. That's why today we're in this situation. That's why we're doing this podcast now. And correct me if I'm wrong, is because of this situation where we don't get the communication that we used to have. We don't get any kind of responses. We don't get to move forward. So I mean, it's like going from being able to go into a community and talk to the people to just being behind a green screen. And that's where it has unfortunately evolved to. So my last question here, um, what's the most important thing we need to understand about government spending?
I think that it would have to be that government is not spending this money in your interest. It's not even money. It's really promises, as we discussed. But it is not being spent, whatever it is, doesn't matter what you call it. It's not being done in your interest. It's being done for the special interest group that wants you to believe that there is some kind of a magical boogeyman that they must save you from, or that they have the special cure because they like to invent problems because there are no problems. We solved a lot of these things years and years and years ago. For instance, cancer. There was this doctor. I forgot his name. My memory is not so good today, but there was a doctor who used sound waves and frequencies to actually cure cancer, just eliminating cancer from the bodies, and he succeeded. And what did that Rockefeller guy did? He held him at gunpoint, or was it Rothschild? I don't remember, but one of the two. They held him at gunpoint and burned all his research down, so he couldn't get it out, and then pushed their fake pseudo medicine, radiology and all that bullshit, chemotherapy. I apologize, chemotherapy and all that BS down everybody's throats. And what's the result? People get irradiated and they die most of the time. What's the result? 97% of the cases, well, okay, maybe not that high, but whatever that number is, it's still pretty higher than whatever the number may be. Maybe it's closer to 70%. But the point is that it's an exceptionally high rate at which people are dying of cancer, a treatable disease, which we have treated in the past. And so that is a perfect example. Although, my memory, if it was working properly today, it would be a little bit better than what I'm purporting it to be. Just from that example alone, you can see that the government is not spending in your interest. That's one takeaway that I'll give you.
Just to talk about that a little bit, cancer. I mean, cancer alone, the double dipping that the government does from cancer alone. And again, I mean, we're collecting from all kinds of charities, billions of dollars worldwide for the cure of cancer. Yet, I mean, I had a roommate, just a few years ago that got cancer and took this advanced treatment, beat it, just so that a week later they could scan him again and say, oh, you got another cancer now, and then gave him a steroid, a medicine, so very expensive medicine that paralyzed them and killed them. And I saw it with my own eyes. So what the hell?
Well, it has to do with, you have to understand that you answered the question yourself when you said that these are big pharma interests and the government is using your own money to kill you. It's not the government that's killing you. Once again, it's the special interest groups that have penetrated the government, as Klaus Schwab will say. And so these people, and I've seen this firsthand with my own government. When I was not born in Canada, by the way. I was born in Pakistan, but I've seen this firsthand, how the money is actually laundered, and who are the special interest groups that come in and swoop in and destroy people's lives just because they have some kind of a mental sickness, they have a neuroses, they think of themselves as gods, whatever that complex may be. They do this deliberately because they want to see you suffer. They want to suck in as much of your wealth as possible, especially if you're sick, and then destroy you. Oh, we have gotten all your money. Bye-bye. You can die now.
Well, that's a grim future. John, you must have something to say here. This has been a pretty interesting conversation here to end this. What do you think?
I think the most important thing to understand is that there not spending it in your best interests. You know, taxation is theft, and the government spending is continuing until the government is put in a position where they have to claim something like Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and fold, just like the rules state that a corporation would need to do and is required to do. But they're already there because they have a receiver general. The receiver for Canada is in fact the trustee in bankruptcy, so Canada is in fact bankrupt. So ultimately, it's just going to continue until everybody stands up and says, "Hey, we've had enough of this." Most countries, when they end their corporationship, they start wars, destroy livelihoods, create discontent, start plagues, so that they can use the fear and pass new laws, and they can keep going, just like they did with Patriot Act 1 and Patriot Act 2, and all the rules that we've seen for the last 3 years. And they use the statute to bilk the unsuspecting public to illegally funding their fraudulent endeavors, and use the case of, but it's the law. It's not the law, it's a statute at best, and the law is God-given. It's natural law. There's 3 of them. It's do not do harm to any living thing, don't damage any shit that's not yours, and honor your contracts and obligations. And the government seems to be screwing up on that. If haven't honored a contract since they invented the word and wrote the definition. So basically all they're really doing is taking your life force. They're taking your energy, and you probably would, any thinking person would want to end those contracts so that they're no longer getting sucked by the government for whatever they have, whatever they earn. It's theirs.
You said something there that I want to kind of get a little bit more explanation on from both of you, actually. And I'll start with Tarek because you just finished. The government is bankrupt. Canada is bankrupt. Do you know how long Canada has been bankrupt, and what that means?
Canada has been bankrupt since 1867. And it simply means that
wait. Wasn't that when Canada was founded?
Yes.
I think it actually goes back longer than that.
It does. Yeah.
The Receiver General's office for Canada was formed in September of 1764.
Wow.
So they've pretty much been banked this whole time. Anyways, forgive me. Continue.
Yeah, no. Thanks for that interjection. I appreciate that. So, like John was saying, yeah, it's been longer, but the thing is that they always change the corporations. So the latest one was in 1867, and so why did they go bankrupt that long ago or longer? Is because the Rothschild Bank of England, they put forth a loan. This is what they used to do. They still do to any country that has gold and silver as their basis. That's why they're not touching Indonesia, because Indonesia actually introduced gold and silver as the rupiah. And then what happened over there was that a phenomenal amount of riots. Let's not go there right now. But anyway, so what the Rothschild Bank did was they would approach the kings and queens, and they would say, or the president, whoever they are, look, we know that you have these development projects and whatever and whatnot. We would like to lend you money. And unfortunately, due to these officials' greed or lack of foresight, they agreed. And not only agreed, they signed such shameless contracts with these people that bound the entire nation. You would be surprised to know, for a millennia.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's much you can add to that. When you look at the documentation, from the Financial Administration Act all the way to the Excise Tax Act, all the way to the Receiver General's office, and everywhere in between, like if you get a charge that's, like let's say a tax, for lack of a better word, but let's say you get a traffic ticket, it says on your ticket that you're supposed to make your check payable to the Receiver General, which means that the Receiver General is ultimately handling all of the money for Canada. It's not hidden, it's in plain sight. It's just that they use different definitions and different names just to confuse it and make it hard to find.
Yeah. So as I was saying, that these loans are then made to the governments, and the people who don't have foresight, they simply sell out the country for a millennia, for a whole millennia, and then these people, whoever they are, the bankers, the landlords, whoever you want to call them, lords, spiritual and temporal, they become landlords over these nations. And so what happens is that they collect the taxes, they collect your energy for themselves. Now you would see, you've seen this with the Vatican, and you've seen this with so many other people who are super rich, like again, the example of Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. It stands out because they're two of the most richest families on the planet. And so when you look at them, their wealth is in the trillions, without any irony or joking in that matter. And so what they do actually is only to increase the wealth of the few people that actually had their own self-interest in heart. The moment you bankrupt a government, you have taken over that country from the get-go. And this is what they did with Canada in 1867. Before that, sorry, John, what was the date again?
1764.
1764. So almost exactly 100 years before that. So you can see that this is a pattern. They continue to do this pattern every 100 or so years. So that's, I feel like that's the real answer. Although, yes, it's a little bit more nuanced, because I try to simplify it as much as possible, because I need people to go in and read. But then again, I feel like that would be the answer for me, at least.
We encourage everybody to do their own research, and when you hear dates from us, when you hear different questions from us, I mean, we definitely want you to do your own research. So last little, very, very short answer on this, because I think it's relevant. Is the United States in the same position as Canada right now?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Except worse.
Well, that's what I believe as well, is that we're all in the same thing. So thank you, Tarek and John. We have heard from our experts, and now we see why government spending is out of control, who is really behind these massive bailout funds, and why our infrastructure is crumbling all over the place. We have the power to take control of the situation and compel the public servants to do what they are supposed to do, to fulfill their oath and come to terms with creating a system that works for we the people. Until next time, thank you, and please don't forget to like us and subscribe to our channel.